Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on something that affects all of us: hospitals. We're going to look at the official blueprint that really separates just okay healthcare from truly great healthcare.
So let's start with a big question. It's one we all think about when we or someone we love needs care. When you walk into a hospital, how do you really know you're in good hands? I mean, is there some kind of universal standard for what good care actually looks like? Well, it turns out there is. It's a framework from the National Accreditation Board for Hospitals, or NABH. And honestly, the best way to think about it is as the master blueprint for building a great hospital. It's a detailed plan that makes sure every single part is designed for safety and top-notch care. So let's start unfolding that blueprint, shall we?
Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that this blueprint is very logically split into two main parts. You can think of one half as everything the patient sees and experiences directly, and the other half, that's all the complex stuff happening behind the scenes to make that great experience possible. And here's where you see that logic in action. On one side, you've got the patient-centered standards. That's the front-of-house stuff, the clinical care, the direct interactions. On the other side, you have the organization-centered standards, the back-of-house. That's the leadership, the internal systems, the infrastructure. And here's the key takeaway. You absolutely cannot have world-class patient care without a rock-solid organization supporting it. The two go hand in hand.
All right, now let's zoom in a little closer on the floor plan. Those two big sections we just talked about, they're broken down even further into 10 core chapters. And you can think of each one as a critical room or department in our blueprint for a great hospital.
So these first 5 chapters, this is that patient-facing half we mentioned. It really maps out the entire patient journey. It starts with how you're admitted and how your care is planned. Then it moves to the actual care of patients, the clinical stuff. Next up, a huge one, how medications are managed safely. And then 2 chapters that are absolutely crucial, protecting patient rights and, of course, controlling hospital infections.
And here's the other side of that coin, chapters 6 through 10. This is the hospital's engine room. We're talking about how the hospital is always trying to get better through quality improvement. Who's in charge and what are their responsibilities? How do they keep the physical building and all the equipment safe? How do they hire and train the best people? And finally, how do they manage and protect all that sensitive information and medical records? This is the stuff that empowers everyone on the front lines.
Okay, so we've got this incredibly detailed 10-chapter blueprint. It's impressive on paper, but a plan is just a plan, right? How does a hospital actually use this? How does it go from being a document to becoming real-world practice day in and day out?
Well, the real genius of this whole system is in the structure. See, each of those 10 chapters has these big picture goals, which are called standards. But, and this is the important part, every one of those standards is then broken down into a specific measurable checklist of actions. They're called objective elements. This is what turns a broad goal, like, say, be safe with medicine, into a concrete to-do list that you can actually audit and check off.
And when you add it all up across the 10 chapters, the entire blueprint contains over 100 of these high-level standards. I mean, that alone tells you just how comprehensive this whole thing is.
But this is where the sheer scale really hits you. Those 100-plus standards, they are broken down into over 500 of those specific, measurable action items. 500! It's this incredible level of detail that's designed to make sure absolutely nothing falls through the cracks.
So how does a hospital prove it's actually following this massive blueprint? Well, to get accredited, they're essentially put under a microscope. Assessors come in and they check everything. First, they review all the paperwork. Then they interview staff at every level, from the top leadership to the frontline nurses. And finally, they do the most important part. They walk the floors and see the care happening with their own eyes.
And every single one of those 500-plus items gets a score. It's pretty simple. You get 10 points if you're fully compliant, 5 if you're partially there, and a big fat 0 if you're not compliant at all. It's a really transparent system, and the stakes are high. A hospital has to get a minimum score in every single chapter to earn that seal of approval. You can't just ace one area and ignore another.
So you might be thinking, wow, that is an enormous amount of work. And you're right. So why? Why go to all this trouble? Why is this incredibly structured, almost obsessive blueprint so vital for modern healthcare?
Well, it's because this is the structure that turns the idea of quality into a reality. It forces a hospital to look at every single function, leaving no stone unturned. It creates crystal clear accountability. Everyone knows exactly what their role is in keeping patients safe. What's cool is that it's also flexible enough to work for hospitals of all different sizes, and maybe, most importantly, it gives them a practical, step-by-step guide to getting better. It's not just a test, it's a roadmap to excellence.
So we'll leave you with a question to chew on. When you look at all these different parts of the blueprint, everything from managing patient data to managing medications, from staff training to maintaining the building itself, which one of these areas do you think is the absolute hardest for a hospital to get right? It's a great reminder that true hospital quality isn't about being good at just one thing. It's about getting every single part of the blueprint right, all of the time.